Hey everybody, welcome to the latest edition of the Utopia podcast. I am Chris, and alongside me is Tommy. Tommy, how's it been going?
Pretty good, other than that whooping you gave me earlier on our online Dynasty game we played tonight.
I'm just glad I was able to get revenge on our previous matchups. That makes our season series 1-1. This week has been a busy one for NCAA football. Really a busy last 2 weeks, which is surprising considering we're over a month past release, but still the news and information keeps coming out. Let's get to the real quick hitters here. First off, Allies and Rivals has started, kicking up the real first official week of season shutdown. The head-to-head matchups have started. If you don't know what Allies and Rivals is, real quickly, you go on and you vote for the 5 schools you want to win, or in a way, who you want to see lose. Check it out at seasonshowdown.easports.com. While you're there, also do the trivia. Early on, the head-to-head results, it's very early. A lot of smaller schools are in a position to upset those big schools, but what's killing them is the lack of trivia points. What you have to do, go in and do the trivia. You can do it as often as you want during the week. There might be a cap of 100 tries. The Season Showdown takes your top 50 individual user scores. So spread the word on Facebook, your social networking sites, your team message boards. Get people to do the trivia aspect, and your school has a great chance to pull some upsets. It came out today. Wendy's has a great promotion going with EA Sports and NCAA Football. It's their big score promotion. Go to Wendy's, get a combo meal, and check out your cup. You'll have a code. You go to the official site. The address will be on the cup. Enter it in. You have a chance to win $20,000 towards a football trip, $10,000 for your own entertainment system, gaming consoles, copies of the game. Just very cool to see NCAA Football in a promotion with a restaurant, a fast food chain. Usually it's Madden that gets all the tie-ins. So it's great to see NCAA Football getting out there, getting pushed. And along the same lines, this is a very cool promotion. We had very, very short notice on it, so hopefully this week it will not be the same. Last Friday we found out that ESPN and EA Sports are teaming up. They wanted your game highlights. The highlighted game this week, Virginia Tech versus Alabama. They needed them up by Monday. Hopefully this week we'll get earlier word on when they want the highlights and also what matchup. So hopefully the top 3 people, I saw several Utopians posted their highlights, so I'm hoping that they'll be the ones to get on ESPN programming. So with that, let's get to the big news items. We got all the small stuff out of the way finally, Tommy. The patch is out now for both 360 and PS3. I'll let you talk about what are your thoughts. The big issue is that there's no fix in there for progression. Some saying it's broken, some saying it's not broken but flawed. Tell me, overall, what are your thoughts on the patch?
On the patch, I am kind of disappointed that they didn't at least touch on progression. I can kind of see the issue because there's 3 major areas where it has to touch on. Number 1, the current roster. Number 2, the incoming recruits that come in. And then number 3, how much they progress from year to year. So it is kind of a delicate balance, and hopefully it's something that they address for NCAA 11.
Obviously, progression not being in there was a big issue, but the patch did do a lot of things. I believe there are about 30 line items on there. It's been overshadowed, unfortunately, by the lack of progression. But let's talk about what the good things it did. One of them is the blocking. Tommy, in our game earlier today, we saw some examples of this. What do you think of the improvements to blocking in the patch?
Well, it did 2 major things. Number 1, it fixed the issue where if you change the run block slider, before the patch, it would give you pretty much an automatic touchdown on kickoff returns. But now you can adjust that and not have to worry about the issue. But then as well, it also fixed lead blocking so that guys that are in the open field will find a defender to block a lot better than they would previously. And then as well, you'll see sometimes when a bigger guy is going up against, say, a corner, you may see him immediately toss that corner to the ground. That's actually really good to see, something we haven't seen in the past, to where corners cannot fight against a 300-pound offensive tackle.
Finally, tonight we're going to talk about a big project that's been going on at NCAA Strategies. I'm sure a lot of you, if not all of you, have seen it, but if not, make sure to check us out at ncaaStrategies.com. We have what we're calling the NCAA Football Community Wishlist Tournament, an idea created by moderator Joe Bob. Tommy, you and I, we kind of worked on this as well. We've gone through, figured out the top 68 items that the community has asked for over the last few years, not just this year or after NCAA 10, but the last few years, especially on Next Gen. We wanted to put together a list that shows what the community wants, a real comprehensive community list. It's easy when somebody makes one thread on a topic to say, yes, this is a must-have item for the game. I can't believe EA didn't do this. Well, when you start comparing it to the other 67 items on the list, you realize, it's a tough call to figure out what goes where. So this is a March Madness-style tournament, 68 items. Only one item will be the champion. It'll be the most requested, most wanted item. But we're also doing it to kind of a general idea or a grid idea on the top 10, and maybe all these items. Let's go into the wish list tournament. Tommy, Tell us about the tournament, some of the goal behind it, and your thoughts on it, plus some of the individual aspects and matchups that have stood out to you so far, as we're in round 2 right now.
As you mentioned, we're basically trying to kind of weed out what the community as a whole really has, what they really want out of the NCAA series. It's easy to sit back and say, I want this, I want this, I want this. But then when you actually have to come down and give and take, I want this, but now I have to lose this, it's a lot harder. And the tournament kind of gets us to that ultimate goal. It brings us down to what the community as a whole seems to think is the most important issue with the NCAA series. Some of the matchups, it's actually been pretty interesting. You and I were actually the ones that set up the seeding for some of these, and probably the biggest surprise that we had was number 11 seed Progressive Weather dominated the ability to use dynasty teams online. It ended up winning 107-26. It was actually surprising. Not necessarily that progressive feature isn't something that everybody wants, but number one, I thought a lot of people wanted the ability to use dynasty teams online, but then as well that it was just a matter of how big the margin of victory was. It was kind of surprising. There were a few other upsets like that. One of the biggest ones that it's kind of coming on strong already in round 2 is the ability to set weak and strong positions, such as weak outside linebacker, strong outside linebacker, etc. That one's kind of making a push to really see itself get into the Elite 8, maybe even to the Final 4. The biggest winner that we saw out of the first round is really no surprise, is Custom Playbooks knocked off number 16 seed Sliders and EA Locker. Final score was 129-15. Custom Playbooks, that and Formation Subs are definitely two that are going to come down to the wire. It's going to you should almost certainly see those in the Final 4. For anybody who wants to go out and look at the bracket itself, you can kind of see where we had our seeding set up. You can look at some of the matchups that have happened, and then as well look at some of the ones that may happen. You can go out to the NCAA Strategies, go out to the Wishlist Tournament Forum, and in the Anything thread, you'll find it in the very first post.
Some people have wondered and asked, what about some of the gameplay stuff? We'll have more, whether it be a tournament or discussion or polls or voting, we'll have something down the line to kind of get into the nuts and bolts of gameplay. This tournament's really about big features, bona fide features. Looking through these 68 items, every one of them would be a great addition to the franchise. Every one of them had pretty solid vote totals. There's people who've asked them for over the years. That it's been really interesting to watch. As we wrap up the show, Tommy, let's end it with what's one item that's kind of under the radar that you personally would like to see advance. I know you know mine because we talked about this before. The one that I like to see, and it's one you just mentioned, is Progressive Weather. Like I said, this is a non-major item that I'd like to see advance on a personal level. I think it's something that would make the game more dynamic. It would help the game-to-game feel different. Right now, if you have snow in the first quarter, you have snow all 4 quarters. That by the fourth quarter, you're oblivious to it. Whereas if the weather would change, that's another element you have to keep track of. And it's something that I think, after the success of progressive lighting that returned to NCAA Football 10, that I think progressive weather is the next step. And I'm a big believer of when EA Sports adds in a feature, I think each year they should strive to make it a little deeper or add on to it each year. And I think that's how they would take progressive lighting and make it better for NCAA 11, add in progressive weather. Tell me, what's the one under-the-radar item, and not one of the big ones, but kind of under-radar, you'd like to see advance?
The big one that I'm kind of disappointed to see so far in the second round, it's kind of struggling a little bit, is the number 3 seed Special Teams Overhaul. Right now it's matched up against more slider options. Basically, the special teams we have right now are the same ones we've had year after year. I mean, obviously they've had small changes here and there. I'm wanting to see the ability to go in and block a kick, the ability to squib a kick on the kickoff, the ability to have a reverse off of a kickoff, the ability to have the pitch to the kicker as he runs around out of the backfield that LSU has done a few times over the years. Basically, I'm wanting to give the same effort that offensive and defensive playbooks have give that to the special teams. I mean, it's obviously a third of every game, so make it actually a third of what the game consists of. Really, though, there's not just one thing that I would say that has to be in it. It's kind of hard to, like we said before, you have to go in and really think hard. How much do you want one thing versus another? It's going to be enlightening, I think, by the time all is said and done.
I agree. I hope everyone goes out and votes. It's been great so far, and it's going to be really fun to keep track and see who emerges as the winner of this tournament. And with that, we'll wrap up this edition of the Utopia podcast. Everyone, check us out at ncaaStrategies.com. Thanks for listening.
Wishlist tournament, vote or die.